welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sara Hart-Unger, and this is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. I have a September Q&A episode for you today, which includes a great planner piece vignette and some other goodies in planner news. So excited to get started. For those of you who have just entered the back to school season, welcome. I've been there for a while. My kids have actually been in school for about 4 weeks now. So we are just kind of finding our way and figuring out our rhythms for the season. So I guess this is a little pep talk. If you have just started and it feels like a lot and it feels overwhelming, you're probably going to feel a little bit better in a couple of weeks. At least I think we're finally settling out into our new fall rhythms approximately 4 weeks after the school year started. So it does take some time. All right. But one thing that always is fun in the start of September is the beginning of Hobonichi season, which I've talked about on a couple of prior episodes. I've even done full episodes dedicated to the Hobonichi launch. And I know that some of you listen to this and don't use Hobonichi, so probably would prefer I not spend too much time belaboring this. But I did place my order less than a week ago. And so I'm still a little bit excited about that. And I just wanted to share a couple of takeaways. I had mentioned on some prior episodes that I suspected things would be much more expensive this year because of the tariff situation. And also probably related to the tariff situation, Hobonichi has decided to basically remove free shipping. You used to be able to hit a maximum amount or a certain threshold amount, and then you could ship your items for free, even internationally via Japan Post. Now, I guess Japan Post isn't a shipping option. There's another express option that's being used, and you do have to pay shipping fees. So how bad was it? Well, I compared my order this year. I've been ordering, by the way, directly from Hobonichi since 2014. So I have a long track record, and it would actually be fun to pull out all of my online receipts from every single year from the Hobonichi store, but I haven't done that. But I did look at the last few. And to me, the price increase seems to come from three different things. Number one, the prices of the items themselves are definitely up a little bit. It's not a huge amount. For example, last year I got a Hobonichi Weeks Mega that was $24. And this year I got a regular Hobonichi Weeks, but with like a novelty cover that was $29. I also compared like the price of it's hard because I didn't order the same things. And obviously you can compare the price of the same things, but I don't have receipts for that to look back on. But if I had to estimate based on just the gestalt of what I paid last year and what I got and what I paid this year, I'm going to say the prices themselves for the items are up about 10 to 20%. Like that's for the planners themselves, for the covers, for the weeks, etc. But then there are other fees on top of that that are significant. Last year, the only fee that I paid on top of the prices of the goods themselves was a 6% tax. That was it. There was like $20 tax added to my order. This year, I paid 30% in total fees. 12.5% of that was shipping, and 17.5% of that was labeled as duties, taxes, and fees. So that means in addition to the prices, again, being up about 10 to 20%, like without any additional fees, instead of paying 6% on top of that, I'm paying 30% on top of that. So on the whole, I would say this is 30 to 40% more expensive than previous years. And we know that Hobonichi planners and ordering beautiful items from Japan isn't exactly bargain shopping to begin with. So it makes me a little bit sad because some people are going to feel priced out. I will say, if you love Hobonichi planners and you don't want to pay these prices, there are definitely ways of getting them more inexpensively. You could order just the planner book. Probably, even US Amazon carries their products. You can also get them from somewhere like JetPens, where you could get free shipping. I believe they have free shipping if you hit a maximum. So if you need pens or other items, that would make things more affordable. You certainly do not need a new cover every year. Their covers are quite durable. I'm actually using one from like 2018 or something like that. And then there are also tons of affordable covers to be found on eBay. So if you want to use a Hobonichi planner, and you don't want to break the bank, you could just purchase the planner from somewhere like Amazon, and then you could get the cover pretty inexpensively, and you could have your whole setup for, depending on what you're looking for, certainly less than $50, much cheaper if you're going to use a week's. So yeah, I don't think there's too many people who are entirely priced out of Hobonichi, but I will say the whole thing has become more expensive, which makes me sad because I want these planners to be accessible for anyone who gets excited about them like I do. All right, so enough about Hobonichi. There is a little other launch in planner news that I noticed coming through my inbox recently, and that is that the popular Full Focus Planner has launched a minimalist version. So they've had their Full Focus Planners, which are a quarterly planner that's pretty hefty, 2 pages, like a 2-page spread for every day, with a cost of somewhere around $45, depending on the type of cover and the type of binding, etc. They've now launched this minimalist version. Now, it's not any different in terms of the size of the page. It looked smaller in the pictures, but then I looked it up and both of the specs say that they're both 6 inches by 9 inches. So they're not small in terms of the actual footprint on the desk, although they are spiral bound, which means I love spiral for these types of planners because that way you don't have to take up your whole desk real estate by having them open all the time. I think that helps if you're trying to save space. But instead of 2 pages per day, the minimalist planner just has 1 page per day. So there's no notes page. Instead, you have an area on that daily page that's tasks and notes. And I think for many people who don't have the need to keep a lot of extra notes each day, this planner is going to be great because I do think the other one can be a little bit hefty if you don't need those notes pages. It's a lot of extra weight. And yet this planner seems to offer a lot of the features that people love in the regular Full Focus Planner, like there's still annual goals pages, there's a quarterly calendar, etc. I have not ordered one yet. I do think I'm going to order one just to review because I do want to see, in addition to the daily page, which you can see on their website, I want to see how much they've streamlined the other content. But I do think this could be a really workable alternative. This is someone who likes the full focus, but who felt like having that whole extra blank page for every single day just felt like a little bit more planner than they need. And again, at 160 pages versus 304, that is a significantly lighter book. It sounds like they're using the same cream-colored paper, but this is going to take up less weight in your bag. Not really less space on your desk, but definitely just a less hefty volume with less waste. So if you use Full Focus and you're excited about this one and you've tried it or you're interested in trying it, definitely let me know. We'll be interested to hear everybody's first thoughts as this planner comes out. All right, so we're going to get into some listener feedback and some planner piece. And I'm going to begin with an email that I got from Catherine. And this is in response to when I had a discussion about separate planners versus planners together. And I admitted that as much as I really feel that the calendar should really be in one place where you can look in one master calendar and know exactly what's going on, there are situations where work and life might have to be separate. I did begrudgingly admit that, and I got feedback from multiple people that yes, they agree that sometimes things need to be separate. I even admitted myself that really all of my clinical to-dos and my clinical schedule is kind of a separate electronic system. So in a way, I can't sit here and say that I have everything in one book, because it's certainly not like I have my patients' names and my clinical to-dos and my paper planners. That would be actually illegal because of HIPAA privacy laws. All right. So Catherine writes, please forward this to the primary school teacher that asked the question about one teacher, personal planner, or 2 separate planners on your podcast. I am a teacher myself, and I highly recommend having separate planners for teaching and personal life. If it is an evening PTO meeting, I will mark it in my personal calendar, meaning if it's the outside of school hours, that's going to go in her personal planner so it remains a source of truth. However, she writes, there may be confidential student data or meetings that you might not want to risk being in your personal planner. So this is kind of the teacher equivalent of the electronic medical record that I use. And I imagine so many fields have things analogous to this. If you are an attorney, you can't put privileged client information in your paper planner. So I absolutely agree with that. I just think you need to make sure then that in your personal planner, your work hours are accounted for and any work tasks that are after hours are recorded in some way, perhaps without sharing data, but so that you have a task or obligation during those after hours times. All right, we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to get to a tip from another planner named Sara. Today's episode comes to you with support from iExcel. The autumn season is in full swing, and iExcel helps keep your homeschool lessons or school enrichment structured and steady, whether you're following a set curriculum or creating your own. I personally love the simplicity that iExcel offers. I don't have to dig through endless resources. iExcel is organized by grade and topic, so I can jump right into what each child needs. My kids have been using iExcel for years, and I really trust it to help solidify concepts and meet them where they are. Just like each leaf changes at its own pace, each child learns differently. iExcel adapts so kids can move ahead when they're ready or revisit the topic until it truly clicks. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. Today's episode is brought to us support from Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. That's why you should say yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 per month. Mint Mobile's plans start at $15 per month, and there are no unexpected overages or hidden fees. All Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/BLP. That's mintmobile.com/BLP. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. I love fall energy, like the fresh start of back to school, plus all of that delicious fall food. Warm, homey flavors just make everything feel comforting. Plus, with the new seasonal energy, it's the perfect time to reset and bring healthy habits back into focus. Green Chef can help you do just that, even if your season is packed with school festivities and events. Green Chef's meals are made up of real, clean ingredients, and they help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle. With 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options, Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, and protein-heavy. There's even a gut and brain health option and calorie-smart choices too. They really are family-friendly, and my kids are always so excited for our Green Chef dinners. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid, as in 50bestlaid, at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. All right, I received a fun tip from a listener named Sara, and she says, "Hi, I just listened to the July Q&A, and I have a suggestion for task management." She writes, "I use this tip for tasks that I have a set date for. Either this is something I can determine, like if I need to think about my child starting college applications in December, I might pick a date of November 15th, or maybe it's a specific day in the future. For example, if I want to cancel a membership, but it needs to be on October 15th before it renews. I put all of these in ToDoist. I know there are many people who use this app for a lot more extensive planning of projects and reminders and daily lists, but I only use it for these future events that I can put on a specific date. When I sit down to plan my day in the morning, I open the app and see if there's anything for today, and I add it to my daily list. This wouldn't work for longer, ongoing projects, but I often find so many of these one-offs that I would otherwise forget, such as call for X appointment, but they won't have slots open until July, or I want to take my kids apple picking and the orchard doesn't open until X date, or I want to drop something off at the recycling center and they're only open on this day. I love these examples, very realistic. So this is a great tip. I do this on paper, like instead of using a specific app, I'll just write it on a random week or a random day. And again, the key here with any of this kind of tickler, and this is called a tickler, by the way, because David Allen talked about having these files where he would mark them from the months and then days 1 to 31. So he did this in a very analog fashion. So instead of opening up Todoist and it knows what you've saved for October 15th or whatever, he would go to his little October 15th folder and be like, oh, I left myself a gift. So there's so many ways to do that. You can write it in your planner, but I love this person's use of Todoist. And I'm assuming she probably can do that in the free version of Todoist. So this is just like her personal method of pinging herself to the future. And it seems like it works really well. The key is that she always opens up Todoist when she sits down to plan in the morning. This tactic would fail if she didn't have that ritual in place, just like my tactic would fail if I didn't look at my planner. So the key for any of these tickler techniques is that you need to tie it to something that you're actually doing every single day. Just one of those examples that kind of illustrates how important the rituals are versus the actual tools. But I love this real life example from Sara, so thank you so much for sending. All right, next we have a planner piece submission from a stay-at-home mom named Ashley. Ashley writes, I wanted to share because I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, and I don't know if you've had a planner piece submission, at least recently, from a stay-at-home mom. Also, I feel like stay-at-home mom content online tends to come from women who claim to be stay-at-home moms, but who actually run a blog, YouTube, social media business, and therefore aren't reflective of someone who is truly not working outside the home. Since I have been both a stay-at-home mom and part-time working mom, I know the systems you need for these roles are actually very different. Excellent point, Ashley. All right, we're going to continue. She writes, I also want to share since my planner piece is almost exclusively electronic. And then here it goes. This comes from Ashley. She writes, my one source of truth is my Google Calendar. I have a personal calendar for reminders to myself of things I want to do, like taking the kids to the park or having a play date with friends. I have a family calendar for activities that need to happen and I want my husband to be able to reference. We share this calendar and it includes doctor's appointments, kids' activities, and family get-togethers that he will also be attending. I also have a calendar for my husband's call schedule as he is a resident in the surgical field, just for my reference. Then she writes, for time-sensitive tasks, I put them on my Google Calendar, tasks, for when I think they might get done. And every morning, I review any pending task from the previous day and either do it or reassign it if it hasn't gotten done. Key element to the system, absolutely keeps things going. All right, continuing. She writes, for non-urgent tasks, I keep a list on my Reminders app. I guess that's on Apple. It can be on the Apple Watch and it can be on the iPhone. Apple Reminders called Home Admin, and I keep this list as a widget on the home screen of my phone so I don't forget about it. When I'm making my daily plan in the morning, I will use this list to fill in my tasks for the day if I have time, but I'll skip this list if I have a particularly full day. If I ever find myself with free time and extra energy during the day, I'll pick something off of this list, and I find it works well since I always have my phone on me. So these are kind of like her might do today items that she is purposefully selecting in the morning if it's not too overwhelming of the day. And then she can refer to her Apple Watch or her iPhone to see what those tasks are so she doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every time if she happens to have a baby taking an extra long nap or something like that. Okay, then she writes, for brainstorming and bigger projects like meal planning, hosting a back-to-school brunch at my house, or planning Christmas, I use Apple Notes on my phone. I pin the notes that I'm referencing most often that week and move notes to an archive folder or delete when I don't need them anymore. I also use Apple Notes for my goals list. This works well because I currently have a newborn and can't always sit down with paper and pen. I might be sitting in the rocking chair in a dark room, for example, but I can still do all of my must-do planning and can even do some long-term planning and dreaming if I want. Finally, she writes, on days when I have time and energy and want the extra intentionality and fun, I use my paper planner, which is a Palm Paper Weekly vertical me layout, which has 6 boxes for each day of the week. And that's a customizable layout where for each day you can kind of choose categories. It looks like a big grid and is very functional for many people. Her 6 columns are appointments, must-dos, which are time-sensitive tasks, could-do, which are non-urgent tasks, want-to-do, fun things to make sure I'm prioritizing myself, theme days, and that requires a longer explanation and is still experimental, and food. She writes, I also habit track in my paper planner, and I currently am tracking screen time and steps daily. In the weekly to-do box on the side, I'll write get together and work out 3 times each and cross those off as they get done for the week. I also write down my goals in the monthly section, but that's really just for fun because I keep the official list in my Apple Notes. I keep my paper planner open to the week page on the kitchen counter in an area where I hope and pray it won't get wet. I know if I put it away, I won't use it at all, so better to risk the planner getting wet and use it than to not use it but keep it clean. Oh, I totally agree, Ashley. And then finally, she writes, the paper planner is not really necessary on a day-to-day basis, and I only use it because I enjoy planners and highlighters and stickers and want that as part of my routine. If it's a really hard day where I never get a moment to myself, I know my Google Calendar will send me alerts throughout the day, which I get on my phone and Apple Watch. Everything else can wait until tomorrow, which almost always is a better day. Important to remember as a mom of a newborn who some days sleeps all day and other days cries all day. I get it, Ashley. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like a very functional system that really fits your current stage of life very well. So it is absolutely a fantastic planner piece. Thank you so much for sending. If this resonates with anybody listening, or if you have a newborn and you have questions for Ashley, maybe you can send them to me and I can pass them along. All right, we have a couple more questions. One of them comes from a listener named Rachel. She writes, I've been digging through podcast notes because I recall you talking about a planner broken up into one book for every month. I can't seem to find it. I did find Kendra Adachi's playbooks. Those are seasonal, but I thought there was a mention of a planner in 12 books. Yes, Rachel, we've actually had a few, and then I have another one that I think I'll just mention as a one-off, even though I don't think I ever did an official review. So one of them that was on a fairly recent episode was from the brand called The Completist. The only thing is they seem to only sell it on sale right now, so I don't know if they're working on overhauling it or if this is something they're not going to offer in the future, but it's basically their daily layout with 30 of them plus a blank monthly layout in a very small kind of booklet that they call the Slimline Month Planner. And I'll put a link. Right now they're on sale and there's only one design, so I guess I'm just worried that this might be on its way out, but it still exists as of now. And if you love it, you could buy a few of them and have it for a few months. The second one was a really quirky kind of a planner that I talked about in my planners for people who identify as neurodivergent or those with ADHD. And this was from the Creator's Friend company from Australia. They call it the Fast Brain Friend Daily Productivity Planner. And those are also monthly booklets. Each one is a different color, and each one of them contains multiple layouts that are different that you can use over the course of a month so that you can suit the layout to your whims on a given day or the demands of a given day. And then finally, I want to mention the Ashley Shelley. This one was not reviewed recently, but Ashley Shelley makes a blank daily notebook planner that's fairly inexpensive that can be used on a monthly basis and then contains really cute daily layouts for each day. It actually might have 60 pages worth rather than 30. Sorry, I should double check that, but I know it is one where you're going to replenish it multiple times throughout the year. It's definitely thinner than a quarterly book. So those are 3 of them. And we're going to end with a kind of a question that kind of hit me more emotionally. And I'm going to share some of my thoughts on advice for this person. And I'm going to keep it anonymous. So here we go with our last question. She writes, I'm a big fan of the podcast and went through my own rare life-threatening medical event shortly after you. I had been medically uneventful my entire life and suddenly found myself hospitalized for 2 weeks, on IVs around the clock at home for another 4 weeks, and then I had to have surgery once I was strong enough to do so. All in all, I was out of commission from mid-March through the end of May. Ugh, my heart goes out to you. That sounds like a lot. Okay, she writes, I've been a loyal paper planner person for years. Passion Planner has been my go-to, but I've really struggled to find planner peace in my new life, or the after times as I refer to it. Having to cancel every single plan for several weeks of my life and then only prioritize rest and doctor's appointments for a few months made me realize how unpredictable the future truly is. Right now, I am relying heavily on the Google Calendar and Notion Task Manager. And while I've been filling out my weekly Passion Planner spreads, I don't use them or spend time with them or write in them like I used to. I even bought myself a fresh new planner when I finally moved home from the medical ordeal, but something isn't clicking anymore. Do you have any tips for overhauling or reimagining your planner systems and approaches after a life-transforming medical or other transforming event like this? I want to love planning like I used to, and I feel anxious and lost without a system I can trust. Ugh, I'm so sorry you're going through all this. I only feel like I can have like a mini version of what you're experiencing since I feel like my aftermath was a little less. It's never a comparison and it's never a contest, but it sounds like you're dealing with even more after effects than I had to deal with. I would say the first thing is to give yourself a lot of time, even though my event wasn't probably as traumatic as yours comparatively. And again, I just said you shouldn't compare, but it sounds like you're just out of commission for a little bit longer. I think this is going to take a lot of time, like the same amount of time that it might take after having a baby or, when we were all hit by the stresses of COVID and how traumatic that was. It's very hard to be like, okay, and now I have my new system. You will feel like you want that. But in reality, it's very hard to just sort of like have all the pieces fit together all at once. So give yourself time and grace and space to experiment and figure out what works. I definitely think considering really open-ended systems at first might be more healthy for you because you said something like, I can't trust the future. And I understand that. That is so hard. But maybe that means it's time to really zoom in and focus on making a page for each day and what you want to get done on a given day. Maybe once you've kind of gotten a handle on that and allow yourself to play with different tools and just lean into, instead of what's functional, what really gives you joy. Like maybe this is the time to buy some fancy paper or start playing with fountain pens or something that's really just for you to plan out your days or journal throughout your days. And then once that's working, you can figure out, okay, let me get my weekly stuff going. And once that's working, you can start thinking about longer time frames. But I think with the unpredictability of the health journey that you're going through right now, zooming in makes the most sense and giving yourself time before you even worry about, okay, planning the month, planning the season, planning the year. You will get to those things when it's time, but it doesn't sound like now is the time yet. So yeah, I would focus on reestablishing really, really tiny rituals, like maybe just sitting down for 5 minutes each day. Maybe the digital systems are the open-ended answers that you need right now. And I would indulge, if you will, on maybe something really fun to use for a daily practice. And I don't even mean daily as pressuring yourself to do it every day, but planning the day when you feel able to do it and in a way that really feels enjoyable to you. So yeah, I think you should go really, really fancy bullet journal, fountain pens, whatever makes you happy. And then just keep this open-ended and realize that you can craft your system slowly, depending on how you feel, depending on how the horizons open up to you in the future, and really give yourself the space to play and experiment and time to recover. I'm wishing you the best. All right, well, this has been a great Q&A episode because of the questions you guys sent to me. So please keep them coming. They're fantastic. You can always send them via email, Sara with an H.Hart, HART.unger@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on my website, theshoebox.com. My newsletter is late this month. Giving myself some grace. There might not be one in September, in fact, and that's okay because it was quite in August, and then now it's already mid-September by the time this airs, but I should be back to you by October, and I have some fun things to announce because we are getting to the season where we start thinking about exciting plans in 2026. So you can also subscribe to my newsletter. Sometimes it does skip a month, but mostly it comes out every month. The good news is you're not going to get multiple newsletters that are going to spam your inbox because I can barely seem to get it out monthly. So it's theshoebox.com/newsletter if you want to keep up with the latest from me. And with that, I will end this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for participating and sending in your questions. And I will be on your feed next Monday. Have a wonderful week.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.